Welcome back to J&J Dynasty. All right, this video is going to be a little bit different video. So we're going to come to you from the dungeon one last time. It's going to be a little bit of a brag video. So maybe I can tip this down a little bit more, being I'm slouching so badly. All right, so basically what this video is just over a year ago, I got into a league and I've, had two drafts now. So I got into it. It had 2 second-round draft picks and stuff. So we'll get into the video here, but I want to start off and I want you to like the video, please. Subscribe. Look for more of the draft updates coming to you from me with the one quarterback dynasty leagues. So let's get into this video. All right. So, I don't know if you can really see it real well, but this is the roster that I started off with. It had some good pieces. Lamar Jackson on there. Let's see, D-Hop is on there. Some scrap Terry McLaurin's on there. The running backs weren't very good. And so that's the lineup I had. Actually, gonna have to pull this closer here so I can try and read this. Looks like it was Judy and or Jackson and Jones. That I can't even read that. That's so small. What that name is that Foreman? New Orleans running back. I can't read it. So, but you can see him. So I had Kareem Hunt on the roster, Miles Sanders. There was some good pieces there, right? Wide receivers had Amon St. Brown down there. Cordell Patterson was listed as a wide receiver still then, way back when. Terry McLaurin, and D-Hop. So there were some decent pieces on there. Had Travis Kelce on it, which was a big plus with Adam Troutman down there and some other guys. Defenses and Mostert underneath that, and Corey Davis. So I got into this league and I bought this team with the idea of competing last year. So I made a bunch of trades beginning of the year. I wound up getting Josh Jacobs. I wound up getting Jonathan Taylor. I wound up getting rid of D-Hop, and that is going to wind up being a pick. So actually, I'll show you the picks that I had. So it's the second part down here, the only complete one. Year 22, I had 2 seconds, a fourth, and a fifth. So that's what I started the season with. So I wound up trading the 2 seconds, or second I had Metcalf and St. Brown were in the Jonathan Taylor trade. So the thumbnail is a little bit misleading because that's not what I'm really going to talk about. So I got all those guys in other trades and got rid of some other guys to get there, right? So after I did all that, let's pop this in here. So this is what I started doing it the last year. And the reason I call it $119 and see what I did with it. So these are all of the free agents. What the heck? How the heck did that not get on there? I don't have the player I got up there, but that's Justin Ross. So I got Justin Ross and dropped Smith, but I wound up getting a third rounder then basically for Justin Ross. All right. So that's what that is. I don't know how I cut the top off of that cropping and stuff. I was worried more about the other side. But anyways, that was Justin Ross. All right. So I wound up literally getting a third-round pick for keeping Justin Ross. I picked him up on August 10th, and I put him right onto my IR, sat on him for a year, traded him for a third-round pick in this February. So that's what that shows, right? And it showed the dollars. It was $1, I think, or $2, right? Oh, let's go back. No. Okay. So then I got Keontae Ingram for $2, dropped Zay Jones, and that was March 1st. So I have Ingram on my roster currently, right? I did wind up cutting him in a major transaction portal, I believe it was. At a point with this team last year, I was competing for a playoff spot. So I literally had to pick up 5 or 7 guys, and I had to put 5 guys who I picked up off the waivers into my starting lineup to win. So, and I wound up making the playoffs. This wound up being a 9-5 team, right? So I wound up picking Keontae Ingram up. Then I acquired Kyle Phillips there for $21, and he is currently on my roster. I also picked up Samaje Perine, just a drop ad, flat out drop ad. I wound up adding three. If you see down here towards the bottom, I traded Samaje Perine and 3.8, which was Nico Collins. And if you remember the first slide, Nico Collins was originally on the roster. I traded Nico Collins for 3.8, but that is 3.8 and Samaje Perine for that second round pick. And so that's how I got a second round pick for those guys. So that's where Nico Collins comes in. Everybody else was a product of just either drop ads or waiver wire pickups. All right. So let's continue on. So we have, once again, I acquired Jared Goff. I was going to do it with $44, but I did actually acquire Jared Goff also, who's currently on my roster. And I dropped Darrington Evans. Okay. So I did also get Terrace Marshall back. I had Terrace Marshall picked up, and then I dropped him on that week, and then I had to pick him up again. So, but with Marshall, I traded Marshall here on March 15th of this year for James Conner. So he's going to be a name that you're going to see on my final list. All right. Hopefully this is making sense. So here's again, I cut Keontae Ingram, got him back again in October 26th. So he's currently on my roster. So it was, I believe it was $2 and $11. So he cost me $13 grand total. I had picked up Hassan Haskins on November 9th last year. I wound up trading him for a third round pick on March 28th before the draft. This is the reason why, guys. This is the reason why you play Dynasty all year around. All right? You play it all year round so you can make moves like this. If I had waited until after the draft to try to move Hassan Haskins, I would have got nothing for him. Okay? So this is the reason why we do it. All right? So I also acquired Rashid Shaheed for nothing, dropped him. Dropped the Colts defense. He's currently on my roster. Same thing with Isaiah Hodgins. I got him for $2. I think this might have been actually the second time I got him, but I got him for $2 and dropped Conklin. So he's currently on my roster. So basically, this is what I was trying to say is that for $40 in SCHREWD Managing, I mean, got me in 1 year. So those were players in 2022 with drop ads, and I brought them into this year and then traded them, right? So, but in 1 year, those players got me Jared Goff, $119, got me with the Nico Collins, Jared Goff, James Conner, Keontae Ingram, Isaiah Hodgins, Rashid Shaheed, Kyle Phillips, a second round pick, partially because that 3.8 is part of that second round pick, and a third round pick from Skeleton Crew or whatever. So that's what I had gotten so far with the results, all right? But it gets better. So when I flip the page and turn the page, right? So turn the page. This is the roster that I had at the end of the year, right? I picked up Brady off of waivers, so he was getting cut. Same thing with Minshew. But as you can see, those guys are all on here, right? Well, James Conner isn't because I actually picked him up this year. So I guess I did that a little bit wrong. Got ahead of myself just a touch. And you'll see that when I show you the current roster. So that was the roster that I came in with, and that was the roster that I was freaking 9-5 with. And here are the guys on the IR. So those were all the guys on the IR. I was 9-5, and Judy missed a lot of the season. Taylor missed a lot of the season. Michael Thomas missed a lot of the season, and those were the guys who I was really basing the lineup off of. So that made me quite sad because I thought I was going to be a little bit better and pushing. I made the trade for Trey Lance. That was Lamar Jackson for Trey Lance also. So come on, sorry, going backwards here. So this was the roster, okay? So I didn't put the Trey Lance deal in there, but I can see that now. But yeah, all those guys, I mean, a lot of this team I got off of waivers. It was just crazy how I actually continued to win. Um, I have put my name as a fake name on this one too. So I'm not changing the team name. I'm not changing my name on here just for luck because everything has been turned into gold with this team. I think it's the best possible scenario that I couldn't possibly get out of everything. So that's the roster that I had. And like I said, this would be everybody that was on the injured reserve. Okay. So as you can see, there's Nico Collins, who I added with Justin Ross, Thomas. So you can see those guys. Some of those guys got moved. All right. So this is when I had the. This is what at the beginning of the year when the season flipped over. What I had a first, or two firsts, which is mine, which wound up being 1-5, 110 for the Prost one, 2-5, which would have been mine, and then 4-5, which would have been mine, and 4-7, I think, is what the Bikini Bottom Boys, and a fifth. So those were the picks I came into the year, and I had one extra third round pick. That's it. So then I made all those. Then I started making all these moves, right? So I showed you all the moves that I made and the assets I gave, right? So as I said, Nico Collins, that was the trade that I actually did for Nico Collins, right? So that 3-8 and Samaje P. Ryan was not 3-8, it was Nico Collins from the original roster. So this is a little bit more of what I did this year, right? So you can see the date down here is 2023. So wound up getting Adam Thielen, swapped a third and a fourth, and I got a fourth back. So it was or 25th, 25 fourth. So moved up one round. So that's kind of a cute little trade. So I didn't pay much for Adam Thielen because I knew I needed a little bit of extra roster help with the wide receivers based on how everything went last year, right? Then I wound up getting a gift here. I gave up a 407. I gave up for a fourth round pick and $15, right? Well, so then again here, pre-draft, right before the draft, and again, this is why you're in it to win it and in it all times. I wound up getting Matthew Stafford for a fifth round pick. So if you remember what I had, I didn't have much. I had Jared Goff and Trey Lance. So Matthew Stafford gives me the insurance policy that I can actually sit on Trey Lance for another year. Okay. And then I got another gift, my 4-5 pick. I got John Mechie. Guy came in the league and just started throwing players around. So that was the same Red Wolves guy. So with that saying, I made a bunch of pre-draft, little nothing added trades, right? I wound up picking up Stafford, John Mechie, a fourth round pick for Mean Machine, $15 and $10, Adam Thielen, and another fourth round pick. With all of that, I gave away a fifth round pick, 405, 47, a future third and 25, and a future fourth and 24. So as you can see there, I did not give up much, and I got some guys who I can actually use this year. Now, except for Mechie, they're not really young guys, but I kind of kicked the can down the road on some draft picks. I added blind bid bucks, right? So now I've got 525, which doesn't really matter, but I did it all for basically giving nothing away. All right? That's what the point is I basically gave nothing away. So when it's all said and done, and I believe this is correct, I've checked it a couple times, I've got lost a couple times, but literally, I gave up $119 in 2022. I wound up giving up Nico Collins, who was 3-8. Now we're way over onto the right-hand side. Way over to the right-hand side, right? I gave away 405 and 407. I gave away 24 fourth and a 24 fifth and a 25 third. So what I got back for that at the end of last year and the beginning of this year prior to the draft was Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, James Conner, Keontae Ingram, Adam Thielen, John Mechie, Isaiah Hodgins, Rashid Shaheed, and Kyle Phillips. Plus, I got the second round pick, a third round pick, two fourth round picks, and $25 total. All right? That's a pretty good haul for the scrap that I gave up. All right? So, this is what I did, and I just wanted to show you. With the roster, I had some real difficulties with this roster. This was all, if you look at the dates, like December 10th, from the 7th to the 10th, and that was 1 week. I think Saturday was the 10th. So I dropped and added all of these guys, and then I also had to drop and add some more guys to get a lineup put in this week. Like I said, I literally had to add like 7 guys to fill up a lineup 2 weeks in a row. One week wasn't as bad, but this must have been the worst one because I know at one time I think I dropped and added half my team just to be able to fill out a lineup. And there was some injuries and guys got put on the IR at that time also. But it's that kind of gives you the proof, right? So as it stands, I wound up having these picks in the draft, and this is what I got to add to all the other moves. So I knew I was a little bit running back deficient. I was very lucky that Jordan Addison fell to me at 1.5. So 110, I wound up getting Kendre Miller. So if you remember, I have Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Ingram and Connor, and now I add Kendre Miller to the mix as my 4th running back, which is perfect. I added Jordan Addison to Judy, Michael Thomas, Thielen. I thought I had somebody else, but Jordan Addison can be my 4th wide receiver, which is not bad. All right. And then I wound up getting Israel, Sean Tucker, and then Keishawn Butte. Take a chance on me, guy. I mean, he was 4-3, so why not, right? So this is what, after everything I said and did, if you remember what little draft capital I had 2 years ago when I started, I've got a first. I still got 2 seconds, 2/3, and a 4th next year. I've got a first, a second, 2/3, 3/4, and a 5th this year. The nice part about having this kind of draft capital, especially the 4th round picks, I typically don't want to make the 4th round draft picks, but when I want to get a deal done, they're fabulous for throwing in to a trade to get somebody to do the trade. If I need a player, or if I missed a player on a waiver wire, somebody bid $10, got the guy I need for next week, I can throw a 4th round pick at him and get him and fill my lineup up. And then I feel pretty darn good about it, right? So that's not a bad draft capital situation. I mean, I got 2 seconds, my first. Maybe if I need to, I can even trade away my first and one of the seconds this year, especially if I'm doing well, and pick up a nice player to add to the run this year. All right. So let me show you what happened. By the way, I never, if I can help it, I never keep kickers and defenses through the draft, especially if they're early like this. This draft just finished up. I think it started on the 18th of June, and so it finished up. We are going to be 2.5 months until we have to put in a lineup. It gives me 2.5 months to make a trade, a player or two to go on IR to make a trade, or one of my guys to go on IR, and that's if nothing bad happens to the guys who I have, because you're going to have 3rd and 4th round picks. You may just want to cut because they're just not doing anything, right? So you're better off drafting 22 players and picking up a kicker and defense, because what happens every time on the kickers and defense bye weeks, 90% of them get dropped, so you can pick them up. There you go. So that's why I have 22 players on my roster. I turned an old roster. Okay, so actually I want to go back here. And I'm going to add this. Oh, hey, no. Caps. So there we go. I want to add this to it so you can actually see the difference. So if you look at the dark green line, my money, 22, so 23, I had just a straight stick, just my own picks. Now I have an extra second, an extra third, and I lost a 5th. So I added after that, just this year, I've added 2 4th round picks, a 3rd round pick. So that's what we're looking at there. And if we want to compare, right, let's pop in the original lineup. And this is what the lineup is currently. So you can see them side by side, pretty good comparison, right? And so that shows you just the transformation of the roster. Now, one trade that has not worked out for me was the Trey Lance, Lamar Jackson trade overall. But it is what it is. So You can see the running backs got quite a bit more substantial and substantially firmed up with Taylor, Josh Jacobs. I mean, hopefully Sean Tucker, Kendre Miller, Ingram and Connor got a backfield there, and I got a share of Israel. So I think that that's a pretty solid roster lineup there. And if there's a guy in there, I'm probably moving Israel if I have to. All right. I've got a ton of wide receivers and only one tight end, which is Kelsey. I'm only going to need a tight end 1 week, hopefully, barring injury, right? So as you can see, Jordan Addison actually really helped out. Boutte makes it a little bit younger. I kept Corey Davis just because they're talking to maybe him being the number 2 wide receiver in New York. Rodgers supposedly loves him. So Corey Davis and Isaiah Hodgins, I think, could be a PPR monster in New York. Obviously, Judy, John Mechie might wind up being the number 1 guy in Houston. We'll have to see, right? Alec Pierce has a bunch of upside, might not be realized this year. Rashid Shaheed, same thing. But, I mean, if he has a couple big plays in the preseason, his value could skyrocket. Adam Thielen is just a solid piece for this year to try and to compete. And hopefully Michael Thomas is healthy. So along with Kelsey, hopefully I've got enough players to mix and match. Hopefully I can mix and match with the quarterback play, good enough play to get me to a division title. I tied for the division title, lost on the tiebreakers, didn't score as many points, but it helped me overall, I guess, because I got the 5th overall pick as opposed to the 10th overall or 9th overall pick. So I picked up Jordan Addison this year. So I don't think I have a slide there. There's J&J Dynasty. So that's how that kind of goes. I think I made massive strides in just over a year. I think I bought this team in end of February or March last year. Now it's June, so it's just over a year. But that's what waiver wire pickups can do. Now those aren't the greatest names in the world, guys. But the thing it does do is it fills in my lineup so I don't have huge holes like I had or was going to have this year. So that's really what the name of the game is. I'm not trying to brag and say, oh my God, I got all these great players for $119. I made a solid team for $119. I gave a team a future with some extra draft picks and draft capital. So, because those guys look good now, who knows what they're going to look like in 2 months. Again. So this is kind of like a little bit of a brag video. Not really, because it's not much to brag about, but still, it shows you what you can do. And what I've said on some other videos, you want to make trades. You don't have to make the big splash all the time. It's just, incremental trades, trade up, trade up, trade up, trade up, trade up, and keep doing that. So if you do that, well, when you do lose a trade, you really haven't lost. You've lost the incremental increases that you were going after. So it stops your team from crashing and burning. Is probably the size of the matter. Woo, got to smack it. Video going crazy, haywire. All right, so I think that pretty much covers it for this My Money team. It's a video that hopefully I ran through quick enough. Hopefully it's understandable. Hopefully I didn't make too many mistakes. If I did make any mistakes, comment below. As always, give me a thumbs up, right? And subscribe to the channel, and we'll take it from there. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll go from there. Thumbnail time.